Hello and welcome to episode one of the Grip It and Rip It pod. I'm your host and founder of Tycoon, Colin Slattery. And with me is Brian Lackey, our head of everything.
The head of various things. The head of gripping it and ripping it.
Yes, where tactical and strategic come together. Episode one, hopefully. We're going to be talking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, what to do on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We're weeks away and kind of talking through how we do things, answering questions about how to make the most of your Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So, ecom focused and heavy on the how we can make shit work side of things. So, welcome. Happy to have you and hope you'll enjoy the ride.
Yeah, so jumping into it, one thing that we see almost every brand do is that they wait too long to start prepping for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. A lot of them may start prepping a couple of weeks ahead of time, but prep should start months ahead of time, right?
Yeah, so I think this is more common with smaller brands or brands that have not achieved a certain level of scale. Like once you get pretty big, I think you've got it locked in. But yeah, prep should start in July, right? If you're prepping in October or November, like it's way too late. You should be planning what the offer is going to be. You should be buying inventory. You should be starting to work on warming up audiences because CPMs are really high. So yeah, I mean preparation work should be really be broken into a number of phases. With the first phase kind of starting July, August, and then August, September kind of phase two, and then September, October phase three, and then by November you're basically done. Aside from like small tweaks and stuff. Yeah.
So what's the reason why so many brands take so long to start planning? Is it because they don't understand all of the planning that needs to go into Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Is it because they don't understand how fruitful it can be if they do it right? Is it something else?
So I think point two, right? I don't think people really think about how important and how valuable it is to do the prep work, especially early, right? I think a lot of the thought is success just happens because people are shopping, and that's true to a degree. And it was more true, 10 years ago than it is today. But they don't understand how much value can really be generated by doing the prep work and planning ahead and doing things like that.
Mm, I imagine also a lot of brands have never done an actually super well executed Black Friday, where in that weekend they may be able to pull off 2 months of what their normal revenue would be. So if you have never really done it correctly and you always just see kind of like a small boost in sales, it probably creates the perception that, we don't need to do a lot of prep because there's not that much upside. But in reality, if you do the right prep, there's massive upside. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point and definitely true, right? If you normally do $10,000 a day in sales and you're like, oh, we did like 50 or 100,000, like you're like, oh, that was great. But there's a lot more available to brands if they do the prep work, right? Like that $10,000 a day could be, you could do $400,000 on Black Friday, right? Like it could be 30x, 40x, right, of what your daily revenue number is if the planning is there. And so, a lot of people are at a point where they're like, oh, this is successful, but they don't really even comprehend like how massively successful it can actually be.
And when you mention, potentially doing $400,000 of revenue, there may be a misconception for a lot of brands that think, okay, I just, raise the revenue or the spend on Meta, on Google in the morning super high and, just pray to the DTC gods and then it'll work out. But actually, to be able to pull off those numbers well, you need to be surf scaling the budget but I think a lot of people may not even know what surf scaling actually is.
Again, this gets back to kind of the passive approach that a lot of people take to Black Friday, where they set it and forget it, or maybe they adjust it a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, I had a good result," and sure, maybe you're gonna be good, but if you want excellent, right? If you want incredible, if you want 20, 30, 40, 50x like daily revenue, like that requires a lot more aggressive intervention in the accounts. And Black Friday in particular, but like Cyber Monday as well, and the weekend less so, but like it's Black Friday and Cyber Monday, those 2 days, like demand is essentially infinite. It's really the only time of year where you can day trade media and push the accounts, Meta especially, but Google to a lesser extent, to truly insane spend levels. But it does require, yeah, active intervention on a hourly or 30-minute sort of basis in order to get those kinds of results. They're not going to happen on their own.
So when we mention day trading and surf scaling, what does that actually look like for people who haven't done that before?
Yeah, so you're essentially making many intraday decisions about performance, and you're making it based on incomplete data, or really looking at the data that you do have that is accurate to see, okay, should we keep pushing budget? Should we, keep trying to drive more sales? And so, you really can only look at two things. You can look at revenue numbers, and you can look at ad spend numbers, and you can look at them in an hour by hour basis, or generally an hour by hour basis. But like you can even look intra hour and see how things are trending, right? And those are real numbers that you can make decisions based off of, right? So like, let's say you need to be at a 5x marketing efficiency ratio, and in the last hour you were at a 6.5x, right? Like, okay, well, you're above target, so you should probably spend more money, and you should probably be more aggressive about spending money. And then you are running that calculus every 30 minutes, every hour, looking at how performance is trending, and then making budgetary decisions based on those short windows of data, and really tracking, are we pacing where we need to be pacing? Are we pacing under where we need to be pacing? And like I said, making decisions based on spend and revenue, and that's it. And being very quick to make adjustments in order to maximize your return.
Yeah, and obviously you can go past just looking at the revenue data, looking at the spend data, in the ad platforms and Shopify with a calculator, like a Neanderthal. You can export the data into a sheet that'll just do all that for you and have it all in one place, which we have a template for. So, if you need the template, we can help you out with that for Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah, so I mean that's why we built this, right? Is keeping all this organized is kind of annoying, and spend does take some time to come back in. So this is one of the things that you do kind of have to factor in when you're doing this. And another reason why the spreadsheet is very, very helpful is that, if it says you spent $1,000 in the last hour at like 2 minutes past the hour, that is going to tick up over like the next few hours. So there is like a slight downward pressure on your marketing efficiency ratio hour by hour for about 4 hours until it really all the data comes in. And yeah, so like having a spreadsheet where you can, paste the data in quickly, and it takes, 3 to 5 minutes to fully update, and giving you a good read on what the performance is. Yeah, super helpful. And what we use to really scale clients very aggressively on Black Friday in particular.
Yeah, so brands definitely need that. But before even that, just, making sure your bases are covered. I think one thing that's always surprised me is it seems like a lot of brands never actually run the numbers in terms of what happened last year and factor those into what their discount should actually be this year. Seems like a lot of brands just kind of pick a number out of the air and run with it. So for brands that may be unsure about how they should go about determining what their discount should be, What advice would you give them?
Well, I wouldn't even like start with discount, right? I mean, discount is the most common, but there's lots of other promotions that you can do. Um, and I think the important thing to remember, especially with discounts, is every dollar you're giving on a discount is coming out of profit margin exclusively, right? Like your cogs don't go down, your shipping costs don't go down, like your OpEx doesn't go down, like nothing goes down except for your margin. And so you need to be able to forecast out like how much is this discount going to increase sales volume beyond like our baseline, and is that going to make up for the loss in margin? And that's assuming like your goal is gross profit dollars, right? You can have different goals, maximum new customer acquisition, things like that. But you don't want to give away margin and only get a small bump, and then you ended up making less money than if you just like did nothing, right? So it needs to be very intentional when you're thinking about your offer, and this is why it's important to think about it ahead of time, because if you don't, right, like if you're just gonna guess, you're like, oh, cool, we slap 25% off or something like that, which may or may not be the most effective way to do it.
How much weight do you think brands should put into looking at the promotions that their competitors ran last year in terms of calculating what they should run this year?
So what competitors do is helpful information, but I don't think it should be a huge focus. It's more of a kind of like gut check, right? Where if your average competitor offers 30% off and you're like, oh, I'm going to offer 10% off, like that's a non competitive offer and you might as well not even do anything, right? Um, so you do want to be in some sort of ballpark range of what competitors are doing, and taking a look to see if you're in that range. But I don't think it's like, oh, they do 25%, so we have to do 25%. But it needs to be competitive. Offers need to be competitive, especially on Black Friday.
Can you speak a little bit to the importance of preloading assets into Meta and also contingency assets for brands who may not know why is that important to do before Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
Yeah, so I mean, look, we've all been through the meta experience this year with outages all the time and just all kinds of problems in platform. And if you've done Black Friday, Cyber Monday before, you'll know that ad approvals get really slow. And it can take days for ads to go through and get approved. And you don't have days during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? So you want to make sure that everything is in the system, has gone through review, has been approved by Meta, and not just for your base offers, right? But also for contingency offers. So maybe your assets are featuring your hero product, but you end up going out of stock on your hero product on Sunday. Well, you should have ads in there that you can have the same offer, but for like secondary products, right? Maybe you're trying a couple of different offers and you're not sure which one's going to work. I don't necessarily recommend this, but you can have different assets with your different offers in there. And then if you're switching to a new offer, you can go ahead and flip that on and it's already in there. It doesn't have to go through the approval process again, because there's not a huge window of time for you to make as much money as you possibly can. It's essentially, 96 hours, right? It's 4 days. It's Friday through Monday. And any period of time where you are not active in spending money, you don't get that back. And once it's over, that's it. It's done. You wait until next year. So, absolutely need everything in and loaded and planned ahead.
Yeah, and same applies to landing pages, things like that, because even though you don't need to go through the approval process, it's good to just have it locked and loaded so you can just swap them out, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, you want your Black Friday to be as stress free as possible. And scrambling to get a landing page updated and launched in hours on a Saturday when people are with their family, shouting at each other over Thanksgiving weekend, like you don't want to deal with that. So spend the time ahead of time, put it together, right? Like now's a great time. It's the 28th of October and we're shooting this. It's a Tuesday, just a regular Tuesday. No above and beyond stressors. So make the weekend as easy for you as possible, and that's the whole point about doing everything ahead of time is reducing the stress and reducing the potential for panic and mistakes when you are trying to maximize the amount that you spend and make over that 4 day period.
Yeah, and like you were saying, bonus extra family time, so you can engage with your uncle a little bit more, who has extreme political opinions. Get a little bit more FaceTime with him, so that you're not updating landing pages, instead of arguing at the dinner table.
Or you can just lie and you're like, look, I have to be on my computer, and then you play computer games or watch Netflix, like which also
That's true.
totally fine.
These
You're
are all
like,
the
oh,
options
sorry, I
there
got to
too.
work. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and really,
Yeah,
you're just hanging out, playing Counter Strike.
yeah. I mean, for introverts, it's a good that is a good way out.